heat waves kill more people than all other natural disasters. In July 2023, 80% of the Earth's population have just experienced abnormally hot temperatures. Over the next 30 years, it's pretty much a wide consensus that we will experience more frequent heat waves, more intense heat waves. If we don't learn how to better adapt and cope with extreme heat when it happens, then the impacts from a health perspective are going to be immense. So the Heat and Health Research Incubator is a research centre. We form multidisciplinary teams to develop comprehensive solutions to the very complex problems that we face in terms of the effects of extreme heat and hot weather on human health and well-being across the human lifespan.
My name is Eddie Jones. I'm 78 years of age and I live in Riverstone, New South Wales, Australia. It may be 40 degrees outside, but indoors can still be really 30 degrees. I try to avoid going out in the heat of the day, and I try to be indoors because it's just debilitating. Because once I was in a heat wave working outside, didn't drink enough water, and I ended up in hospital through slight dehydration. It's a matter of hours, and even just going walking and such, it can be quite tiresome, especially when you're a bit older. It makes a difference.
It's important for people to understand that there are things that make us physiologically vulnerable to the heat. Aging, this is aggravated further if we have heart disease or kidney disease or other chronic diseases. But the thing that really makes us uniquely vulnerable is if we have that physiological vulnerability, live in low resource settings, they may not be able to afford to install air conditioning units. So the people who are most vulnerable are people who are physiologically vulnerable but also find themselves in circumstances where they can't access cool spaces and they need solutions for those low resource environments. The problem from a health perspective is the hot person in the hot environment. Issues associated with extreme heat exposure can increase the risk of heat stroke, place more demand on the heart. It will also place extra stress on the kidneys. And if somebody has an underlying cardiovascular disease, this can result in a catastrophic cardiovascular event. We have a climate chamber here at the University of Sydney, which has been custom built for simulating both heat waves of the past, so we can recreate any combination of temperature and humidity that exists in the weather records. And we can also do that for the heat waves that are predicted in the future.
Just going to secure it nice and tight this way.
So we expose participants to these conditions and we measure their physiological responses to that heat stress, how hot their core temperature gets, how much work their heart has to do, how dehydrated they become. We then systematically assess simple, low-resource cooling strategies, when people should and shouldn't be using electric fans as cooling devices, whether they should be using skin wetting as an intervention, cold water foot immersion, how they should be using the blinds in the house.
It's incredible how it can increase temperature, humidity, create wind.
We need to find low-tech solutions for the most vulnerable. At the same time, we need to find ways of incentivizing people to use air conditioning less because of the environmental consequences of mass air conditioning use. We're finding ourselves in this maladaptive cycle where it's hot, people are trying to cope with that hot weather by using air conditioning. That air conditioning is being powered predominantly by power plants that are using fossil fuels. Those fossil fuel power plants belch out more CO2 into the atmosphere. That then contributes to further changes in the climate, a warmer future. And the way in which we're going to cope with that warmer future at the moment is by using more air conditioning. And that's a very perilous place to find ourselves in.
We try not to use the AC as our first option. It's more the last option for the simple reason you're using up so much fossil fuels and everyone else is doing the same thing, so you can try and do your little bit to not use it unless you've actually really got to.
75% of Australians at the moment own an air conditioner. One of the approaches that we're trying to help pioneer in the Heat and Health Research Incubator is fan-first cooling. If you move air across the skin surface with fan, it'll make the air feel 3 to 5 degrees Celsius lower. So people can increase the temperature on their air conditioning unit from 23 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius and feel just as comfortable What it means is that the air conditioning unit will be on for a shorter period of time. We found that this fan-first cooling method, if everybody in Australia did this, would reduce people's electricity bill in terms of how much they spend on cooling by a conservative 70%.
I'm concerned about global warming, not so much for myself, but I'm more concerned about my grandchildren because they're going to face the brunt of it after we're well and truly gone. If everyone had the same thoughts about using fans rather than air conditioning or insulating your home to keep things a little bit cool, and we can probably all contribute even if it's only a little bit, but a lot of little things added together can be a big thing.